And today we're going to talk about Lumumba.
Yeah, yeah.
And as you know, Lumumba was a giant.
He was.
He was only 35 years old.
Yes,
He was a young man.
Yes.
A lot of people just say, you know, it's time for young people to, you know, to join the struggle. And I know some people say it's time for young people to be the leaders, to be the presidents and things like that. It's not because he was a young man that we follow him, but because he was correct. Remember, the people who killed Lumumba, those who sold out Lumumba, killed us, that's right. Mobutu was younger than Lumumba.
Yes.
So it wasn't a question of being young, it was a question of being a revolutionary. Anti-birds. Lumumba was one of them. Mobutu, who was younger, wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And today, if you go to Congo, you'll be surprised. People don't know about Lumumba. I was like it when I say. I discovered Lumumba when I was probably maybe 12 or 13, probably 14 years old. Our neighbors, there was a mother, Mamana Dodo, we used to call her, and she used to tell us stories. And she was my mother outside. She was a mother to all the young people in the neighborhood. So I would spend my time with her because she was just great in telling African stories. And one day she told me the story about Lumumba. I heard about Lumumba, but I didn't know who he was. And if you watch the film, when Lumumba was with Kasavubu on a plane, Raoul Beck's films, and when they're supposed to land in Katanga, and the Munongo and all these Belgians say, you can't land here. She told me that story. And she told me Lumumba was courageous. And Kasavubu was not, she used the word in Lingala, humor. Human means cowards. And that stayed in my brain. Until I came to Europe, I started finding books, then it made sense. You know, I say, I want to be like Lumumba, not like Kasavubu. So my mother Dodo, she's the woman who introduced me to that. Now, a lot of people, particularly those who benefited from the death of Lumumba today, they said Lumumba was in a hurry. That's why we got to help.
Foolishness.
I want you to understand this very well. Mobutu stayed in power for how long? 32 years. He was not in a hurry. What did he do for us? Lumumba stayed in power for less than a day, I might say. Because the independence was declared on the 30th of June. By the 4th of July, the Belgians reoccupied the Congo. So Lumumba was not even in power, so to speak. He didn't have the weapons, the attributes of power to, you know, to fulfill his vision. They didn't give him space to do that at all. And when they say he was in a hurry, I want you to understand this. Lumumba was a product of his time, to understand why people said he was in a hurry. In 59, you know, there was an uprising in the Congo, the 4th of January. That is the movement really that really put Lumumba on the path, on the road of being the national leader we all, you know, love today. But in 59, there was no just uprising about the Congo. You had the Cuban Revolution in 59. And before that, you had the Mau Mau. You heard about the Mau Mau in Kenya? From 51 to 57. They fought the British. They brought the British Empire on its knees. That's why Kwame Nkrumah had a space to be granted what the British call self-rule. Because the British could not fight us in two fronts. One front was enough for them. And that was the Mau Mau. They gave us the, you know, the slogan of freedom. It came from them. That's 51 to 57. You had the Algerian revolution between 55 and 62. Frantz Fanon, remember Frantz Fanon?
Yeah.
He was saying, let's open up a second front so we can destroy French imperialism, because the French, they were stuck in Algeria where they killed 1 million people. That's really important to understand that, because you all know about Charlie Hebdo. I saw white people on the television saying they are oppressed. White people are oppressed. You tell me, when the last time you saw white people being oppressed? This is very serious. because they are fighting to convince you and I they are the victims of uncivilized black people and Muslim people and things like that. They are being attacked by us. And that's serious narrative. Because they portray themselves as the victims when the historical victims is us. We are the victims. That's really important. Controlling the narrative. What is being said, what is in our brains. If what is in your brain is being formed, given to you by somebody who's pressing for more than 500 years, you are in trouble. So you had that. You had the United States of America, who used to brag that never have been defeated. They could not win in Korea. Remember, Korea War, 51-53, the United States could not win there. So they have to split Korea in half. Then you heard about Vietnam, where the average weight of a man in Vietnam was 40 kilograms, less than 80 pounds. They were skinny, starving people, because the French have been starving them for over 100 years. They defeated the French army, just like our people in Haiti defeated Napoleon's army. And that sent a shock wave throughout the world that the white man can be defeated. The white people can be defeated. That was the first time in modern time, of course, if you omit the Haitian Revolution. That gave everybody courage. Go after the oppressors. Go after the colonizers. That was the Vietnamese state. As Malcolm X said, they had nothing. Just a rice, just a bowl of rice, and a razor. And that was true. They surrounded the French. And the French couldn't believe. They started asking, what is Vietnamese? Who's their general? What university did he go to? They didn't go to any damn university. They studied just on the ground how to defend the powerful enemy. And they did. Of course, you had the struggle for freedom in the United States. Black people said we refuse to be a second-class citizen in the United States. And the struggle took off in the United States in the 50s. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and etc. So we have a period of struggle. And Lumumba was inspired by that. Nkrumah, of course, Nkrumah who won freedom in Ghana, and we say the independence of Ghana is meaningless without the liberation of all Africa. All those people inspired Lumumba. That's why Lumumba was in a hurry. He understood it's the time to destroy white power. It's the time to get Africa free. He understood that, so he did no rest. His wife said he slept 4 hours a day because he understood he was in a hurry. A slave who sees the opportunity to be free and is in a hurry to seize the opportunity. What kind of slave is that? So he understood that. And that is the time we're living in now. White power is in trouble. He's in trouble.
That's right, that's right.
You just go to the supermarket in this country. You can strike a conversation for anybody, any white person you want to, you can. Why? They can't see the future as they used to. They have lost faith in their traditional parties. That's why they're voting UKIP in this country. That's why in France they're voting National Front. You go to Sweden, that's why they're voting Swiss Democrat. You go to Germany, every single white country, people are now voting for the traditional party. They're voting what they call French party because they can't see the future anymore. That's why they put a black man in the White House because the oppressors need to hide. Need to take your face, the face of the victim. That's what the French are doing. Take the face of the victim. That's why they put Obama there. No, because he's a smart man. Although he's smart, he's educated and all that, but they put him there, they work on him. They know why they put him there. They didn't put him there for you.
No.
They put it there for themselves. That's what they put him there. So Lumumba was a product of his time.
Good talk.
Why did he kill him? You gotta understand this.
Bring it.
To keep us down, to oppress us, you need to have what they call state power. State power. If you don't have state power, you ain't free. And we, the Africans, we black people, do not have state power. We don't have it here. This state here is a British state, is a white power state, is a white people state. In Africa, we have a neo-colonial state. A neo-colonial state is not our state. The state white people imposed on us, and they gave it to their guys, to their collaborators, to the traitors, to the African people bourgeoisie. That's their state. So Lumumba comes to power. Lumumba wins the elections. Then he thinks because he won the elections, he can do what he wants to do. And he gives a speech, freedom of speech. Remember that? The independent speech he made. And the Belgians and the Americans, everybody else, the British, the French, they say, you can't give a freedom of speech. That speech was an expression of freedom of speech. You hear the French who are saying Charlie Hebdo, that freedom of speech. They oppose Lumumba speaking the truth, all that. So now Lumumba comes to power. He wants to implement his vision. Then he begins to learn that it's not enough to win elections. You must have the tools to implement your vision, which means you must have state power. If you go state power, then you can say, we do this, we do that. Someone disagree with you, or imperialists disagree with you, you criticize them with the state power. That's what white power does. They criticize us, not just in the newspapers, but they criticize us using the state power. State power, that's what they use. I really want you to understand that. Democracy is a form of state power. British democracy is British state power. American democracy is American state power. If you don't have state power, you do not count. That's what happened in the Congo. Lumumba realized that he could not rely on the army of Congo. The army of Congo was an army created by the Belgians. And they created it to keep the people down, oppressed. So Lumumba could not use that army. That's why they used Mobutu, who was a part of that army, to bring Lumumba down. Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
That was the critical point, the question of state. So for us, the reason Lumumba died, not only he didn't have state power, and the second thing is we are oppressed as a people. Doctors are oppressed, poor workers are oppressed. All of us are oppressed. In the 60s, but the struggle was not led by everybody. The struggle was led by those who were educated. In the Congo, they call them évolués. A clear word for évolué is an insulting word the Belgians use to mean you're now civilized. Assimilados, the Portuguese use. We call that the African people bourgeoisie, which means the workers, the peasants, the preachers, all of us are together fighting for freedom. But who runs the struggle? Who leads the struggle? The African Patriot bourgeoisie, the educated class, the small class, educated, they lead the struggle. But for them, from the very beginning, the struggle for liberation of Congo was the struggle for them to live like white people, to replace white people. It was not a struggle to fix the problem of the people. From the very beginning. So they agreed for independence, but for whom? They didn't agree. There's a disagreement. So Lumumba came to power with that class. They needed Lumumba to take us to that place. So Lumumba took them to that place. Now they don't need Lumumba anymore. That's why people outside Lumumba's organization and the people inside Lumumba's organization disagree with Lumumba. Now we're in power. We don't need to be discussing, how we're going to change the life of the people and things like that. No, we're there. Now it's our turn to eat. It's our turn to fill our pocket. Our turn to buy castles here. Things like that. In fact, the first month they increased the salary by like 100 times, something like that. Lumumba opposed all that. So that class, they betrayed Lumumba, and that was the job. The job of the African bourgeoisie is to betray Africa. And that's really important to understand. It's not that there is one bad president or one bad apple, just like they say there's one bad policeman. No. The job of the police is to oppress the majority. That's the job. It's not that there's bad police or good police, no. It's the system is like that. So Lumumba could not go with them all the way. Lumumba wants to go all the way because he said the wealth of Congo must benefit the people of Congo. That's what he said. So he could not do that unless he has one, control of the state, And two, he has a social force that comes to power with him.
That's right. That's right.
So the struggle in the Congo was incomplete. That's two of the reasons Lumumba died or was killed. Assassinated. Another reason is this. You see, when you come to film, to cinema, Chairman Amari still gives this example a lot. When you come to the cinema, if you come in the middle, you won't know what happened before. So your understanding is limited by what you see. And the one who saw the whole film can tell you a lot of things. That will be the interpretation of reality. So the struggle against personal colonialism didn't start in the Congo. It started over 600 years ago. That's really important to understand. The invasion of Africa started in 1415. You know, for example, in the Congo, they tell us, a white man from Portugal came to Congo in 1482. So he claimed to have discovered the Congo. But what they don't tell us, 40 years ago before that, the Portuguese were already in West Africa. They were in what we call Ghana today. They were in what we call Cape Verde. They already enslaved Africans before they come to Congo, over 40 years ago. They already did that. People in the Congo didn't know that. So the Portuguese had a vision broader than ours because they saw us in West Africa, they saw us in Mauritania, they saw us in many places. So they already know what they're looking for, what they're dealing with. So the struggle didn't start in the 60s. It's an old struggle. And to understand that old struggle also means we need to understand that the world has changed just as it's trying to change now. In the 60s, who became the world leaders of the imperialism? The United States. The US did not colonize Congo, but the US colonized Africans from Congo, Ghana, Mozambique, over Africa, in America. When we were struggling against Belgium, that was not part of the plan. In our vision in the Congo, we didn't see the United States. In fact, we saw the US as a friend. Because the US made a policy to recognize any country that fought against British, Belgian, and French colonies. Why? Because they won't come in. They won't come in, they don't care. They want, okay, push the Belgian a little bit, make a space for me. So we didn't see that. And the United States also created what we call the UN. The UN. The UN is an organization that forwards the interests of imperialism, particularly the interests of the United States. So the movement Kasavubu invited the UN to come to Congo. Why? Because the Belgians, from the 4th of July, they started reoccupying Congo. Occupy the airport of Chile, occupy part of what they call Lower Congo today, occupy Mbandaka, occupy Katanga. The Belgian army, they just colonized us. Just 4 days ago, in the front of everybody, they said we are independent. And 4 days after, they reoccupied us. So basically they're saying, you end independence, we don't give. We don't give that. And I want you to understand that because some of us take our independence seriously. We are not independent. We are not free. We're not. Because knowing the truth is the starting point. So we are not independent. So the Belgians did that. And Lumumba and Kasavubu agreed to the UN to come. But the UN, as I said, is there to forward the interests of the United States. So the US was there now, without even saying officially. Now you have the Belgian army in the Congo, you have the UN in the Congo. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it's not over yet. On the 10th of July, the Belgians succeeded in telling Chombe was in Katanga, that you have to declare the secession of Katanga. Katanga had to split because they have to do whatever they can to bring down Lumumba. One way of doing it is cut him off from Katanga. Katanga at the time was the richest part of the Congo. The budget, they contribute something like almost 60% of the budget. So Lumumba did not have access to the money, to the resources of Congo. He didn't have access to that. And the money that was in the bank, the Belgians froze all their assets. So Lumumba had nothing in his hand. He couldn't pay the soldiers, he couldn't pay nobody. But Mobutu and others had briefcases full of money. They said, you can go some places and see the officers, the politicians from Congo, they all have briefcases full of dollars the United States giving them. The UN admitted $300 million were, paid in the Congo between 60 and 63, just to buy off influences and things like that. That's a lot of money. Think about it today, $300 million today. But then, that's what they spent. That's what they admitted are being spent. So you had that. And that's no face. Then in August, Kalonji, who used to be from Lumumba, the MNC, used to be one of the leaders of the MNC, a friend of Lumumba, so to speak, also was convinced by the Belgian, you too can become a king in the Kasai. So he declared the secession of Kasai. So you have secessions in Katanga, in Kasai, the Belgian armies, and the UN in the Congo, and it's not finished yet. You have now a campaign, international campaign. You can read many magazines at the time to demonize Lumumba in a very serious way. In a very serious way. They will paint him in faces like Satan, things like that. And that really was done to get him isolated. And after been doing that, and they also organized now a coup. That's in September. Kasavubu. Kasavubu was the president, but it was just what you call ceremonial president, because Kasavubu was the leader of a tribal organization, so to speak. Organization of Congo, that's what his organization. So he didn't even have a mandate from the people of Congo to be the president. But Lumumba did a tactical agreement. Let him be the president, then he can keep everybody on board. That's what he did. So Kasavubu, who was always in discussion and meetings with the Belgians, the Americans, went on the radio in violation of everything. He said Lumumba was no longer a president. Lumumba, as creator, he accused Lumumba of nonsensical kind of stuff when he knew very well that the Belgians and Americans were destroying Congo. So on the 5th of September he did that, and Lumumba went back to the parliament, and they exposed all that, and the parliament said, no, we back you up, you are the prime minister, we don't recognize what Kasavubu was done. So it didn't work. And on the 14th of September, they say, Joseph, it's your turn now. Mobutu was in control of the army. So they sent him. So he did a coup against Lumumba on the 14th of September. So he prevented Lumumba from leaving his residence, put a ring of soldiers around him and things like that. So you have the Belgian, the US, the new colonial army of Mobutu, you have the Congolese politician, Kasavubu, Chombe, Kalonji, and all that. So you have the UN, you have attacks coming from all directions. Basically, you have mobilization of white South Africa, white North Asia, British, everywhere. The whole imperialist world was mobilized. Lumumba should not succeed. They have to bring him down, because Lumumba was very clear that he wanted to make Congo the center of the struggle to free the whole of Africa. And Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah, that was the front of that team. So what happens now is that you have all these forces coming together to bring him down. Let me just speak briefly on the treasury of the UN. The UN was invited by Lumumba, but they refused. They would not allow Lumumba to go on the radio and speak. So they surrounded the radio station. In the same time, Kasavubu can go on the radio, Bolikamo can go on the radio, any politician who is against Lumumba can go on the radio. That's one thing they did. The second thing they did, since Lumumba asked the Belgians to leave Congo, Brazzaville, which is just opposite Kinshasa, on the other side of the river, became the headquarters of attacks against Lumumba. There was a president there called Yulu, and he's a preacher, a Catholic preacher, and he is vehemently against Lumumba. So they allowed Brazzaville radio station to be used to attack Lumumba when Lumumba couldn't even defend himself. He can't go on the radio, remember that. He can't go on the radio, but if you're in Kinshasa, you can listen to Congo Brazzaville. So they have all these different programs, and like flyers against Lumumba. they were printed in Congo Brazzaville and brought back in Congo Kinshasa and distributed, saying Lumumba, you know, is a communist. Lumumba, while he's making millions, you know, and it's going to allow, because he's communist, it's going to allow your wife to be the wife of every man in the Congo, things like that. Really slander against Lumumba. And you go think about it, Lumumba was not as strong as he was in the rest of Congo as he was in Kinshasa. Kinshasa was not his stronghold. You know, with time, it would have become. But at that time, Kasavubu was strong in Kinshasa. So that played against him. So, to be short, what brought Lumumba down is what we call counter-insurgency. It's a military program designed to bring a government down. It's a military program designed to bring the whole people down when the people are in motion trying to be free. So when you put a counter-insurgency in motion, it's a method that has no limits. It's a method that respects nothing. Everything is allowed in a counter-insurgency. And it's a war against colonized people. It's a war against the oppressed. It's not something white people experience unless you are from Northern Ireland, things like that. But it's a program they bring to us. So that's basically the context that killed Lumumba. So now, where do we go from there? Lumumba is dead. So he's not here to forward his philosophy, his vision. He's dead. And for all of us who are alive, what we need to understand that one of the reasons Lumumba was killed, because in the Congo, in Africa during that time, the discussions about what we want, where you want to go, was left unresolved. Because when you kill Lumumba, when you destroy, you kill Kwame Nkrumah, these are the foremost leaders in Africa. It means the discussion is not ended naturally. Now, our job is to continue that discussion. So some of the questions were left unresolved. And those questions have to be resolved for us to go forward.
Yes, sir.
So basically, today, the struggle is, I really want people to be clear on that. The struggle in Africa, the struggle inside the African nation. Remember that Congo was a colony created by the Belgians.
Yes, sir.
Just as Ghana was, just as Haiti, Jamaica, all those places are colonies created by our oppressors. What we need to understand is when did this process start? What's the start of this process? When we were clear on the process, when it started, then it will be easier for us to know what it would take to bring it down. One thing we need to understand before I conclude on what needs to be done, that our suffering, basically, is a suffering that is not contained or limited to one place. We suffer as a people.
That's right.
When I say
That's right.
we suffer as a people, just like the indigenous Americans do not suffer as a Bolivian or Peruvian. They suffer as a people from South America to North America. So for them to be free, they must be free as a people.
Right.
Just like Europe became Europe, not as England, but as Europe. White people found in our oppression
That's right.
a solution
To their problems.
to their problems.
That's right. That's right.
Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
Europe was rescued, was saved from feudalism
Yes.
by our oppression.
Yes, it
Is
is.
that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we call that parasitic capitalism.
Yes.
We can talk about this later on, but it's our oppression and our suffering that rescued them.
Yes.
And it's our oppression that gave them the free speech.
Yes, that's right.
Remember, under feudalism, there was no free speech.
That's right. That's right.
Under feudalism, there was no free speech.
Brutal regime. That's right.
If you disagree with the king, what happens to you?
Dictatorship.
Off with his head. Off with his head.
So, freedom is something they found when they came to Africa and America. There was no prison in Africa,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yes.
There might have been one or two places that, that's not validate that. Generally speaking,
Yeah.
we were free. Free people in Africa and free in America. We're free. So as a result of their aggressions, they took out freedom. But they discovered freedom. And that's what they talk about, you know, like now. So the point I was trying to make is that we lost our freedom as a people, and we will get our freedom back as a people. Not one people, but as a whole people. And that's something Lumumba began to understand, that his ability to be free is to mobilize the whole Africans against Belgium, against British, against Americans. Because the reason Lumumba called the UN to come, because he looked at Africa, he organized a conference in August where he called the African leaders. Then he learned that from that conference, most of the African leaders only want cosmetic change. They don't want a full freedom. That's what he learns. Therefore, if you can't rely on African people, what do? You call for UN and things like that, and it does not work. So you need to have your own freedom. You need to have your own forces who are with you all the way. That's what we're saying, to be free as a whole people. So that's one of the legacy of the assassination, or the lesson we need to draw from Lumumba's death, which means this, that as we fight in the Congo, as we develop a national strategy in the Congo, we must have an international strategy too. We must have an African plan. If we do not have an African plan, we will be slaves forever. We need to have an African plan. That's why they impose borders on us. Why they put borders on us? So you fight against imperialism, but you don't rely on the rest of Africa. Because people across the borders, they say, I'm not Congolese, I'm from Burundi, I'm from Angola, that's your business. So Lumumba had to fight British imperialism, French imperialism, because Congo Brazzaville, that's French imperialism, US imperialism, that's the UN, Belgian imperialism, and all these white from South Africa and Rhodesia, all of them. Now, who's on the side of Lumumba? Ghana. But Ghana sends an army in the Congo. Who controls the army of Ghana? The British control it.
That's right.
You see, so you need to have an African plan. That's where we are now. Now, to have an African plan, we have one. Most of you might not be familiar with that. We have an African plan. We call that the African Socialist International. Basically, how you carry Garvey's vision of one Africa, one nation forward. Because the struggle to free Congo is the struggle to free Africa. The struggle to free Ghana is the struggle to free Africa. The struggle to free Haiti is the struggle to free African nation. Now, when I say that, some people say, Luwezi, are you so busy trying to free the whole black people? What about Congo? No. It doesn't work like that. What you want to do right now, we want to engage those of you from Congo who are ready for revolution. We are ready for you. We've been waiting for you for years. And we are ready for you. We say our first job right now is that we need cadres for revolution in the Congo. We need organizers for revolution in the Congo. And we are ready to do that. Because remember, Lumumba also died because he did not have cadres to make the revolution, to lead the revolution, because the masters are the makers of history, but you need organizers. So Lumumba, when the reason died, he has to stop in every single village to make a speech. That was not his job. That was a job of cadres who will make the speech in every village to explain to the masses why Lumumba is being attacked. We didn't have that then, and we still don't have them today. But we know one thing, that all these young people from Congo, they're in London, they're in Paris, in Belgium, they're in Switzerland, Canada, they are really excited about change. We said, we're ready for you. And we want to kickstart our process. The first one is to train people. We want to be revolutionaries. We want to join a revolution organization. We want to provide that to you. So if you agree with what we're saying, you can speak to Makora, you can speak to Karek, you can speak to any one of our organizers over here. We would like to begin that process as soon as possible, possibly February, but we'll be in touch with you to specify that. But the training is available. you have to understand what is a revolution, because there is no other solution in the Congo, in Africa, than a revolution. There is no other solution. If you don't go for revolutionary solution, putting forward, you will be like, you know, Africa is full of mosquitoes. And some people, they come with, what do you call it? Spray, pesticide. They don't want to change. They want to keep the mosquitoes as long as they can to make money. Because if the mosquitoes disappear, they'll be out of business. That's why you see the charities and things like that, you know, NGO, that's what we see. So we are not pesticide, we are revolutionaries. We want to solve the problem. Join the revolution. Was this much we say here? Lumumba, oye! Oye! Lumumba, oye! Oye! Africa, oye! Oye! Revolution, oye! Oye! Thank you very much.
Wow. Serious.
I told you it was